We're not really saying goodbye. We're saying hello in reverse. This is first. I'm Josh Topolsky.
I'm Ross Miller, and this is Verge.
Are you okay?
Yeah, no, we practiced a cold open over and over again.
You really enjoyed it this time.
I really did.
And it gave you what you were looking for.
It's a clear sign I haven't slept in a week.
It's obvious that you are having problems. Anyhow, this is first. It's our last first.
First last.
That is, it doesn't.
It's a little bit.
I'll allow it this morning, but ultimately not. That doesn't make any sense.
That's a clear sign you're also.
It's our last first of CES. This is the show's still going on.
Yes.
But it's really starting to wind down a bit now. Tomorrow is the last official day of CES.
Right.
But,
it's also it's a half day. Really, everyone starts setting down as soon as they can.
If we attempted to do first tomorrow, a forklift would actually finally truly drive through the set.
It would no longer be a joke. It would be a documentary.
We've been talking about that it sounds like forklifts are going to drive through the set, but it would actually be happening because they'd be deconstructing it. Right. But there's still stuff to talk about, and we actually have a special guest today, Paul Pugh from Frog Design. You guys probably know. If you don't know Frog Design by name, you know Frog Design because they are responsible for some of the most infamous.
Right.
It's really famous designs in hardware and some really great software as well. Stuff like the Next Cube, the Apple Snow White designs. Anyhow, we're going to be talking to him about design, where it's going to be going in the next few years, and so that should be interesting. Right. And he's also very close to me right now, and is this cool? Is this intro working for you? Perfect. Okay, good. Perfect, he says. But first,
let's get to the headlines.
We have headlines, but first, we've got some headlines. Ross.
Right, so
jam into it.
A lot of the big news this week, or a lot of big news today, rather, did not come from CS directly. Yesterday, Microsoft announced Illumaroom. This is a project that they're working on with our good friend Andy Wilson.
Illumaroom.
Illumaroom.
Not Illumaroom.
Not Illumaroom.
When somebody first said this to me, I thought it was related to the Lumia, but it's not.
No.
Check this out. What does this do?
All right, so basically what they do is they have a Kinect sensor that's detecting, basically mapping out where your furniture is, and from there it knows accurately how you can basically extend the screen vision with the projector beyond the television.
This is insane. I have not seen this video yet. People told me about it yesterday. Now, this is truly outrageous.
This is really awesome. Now,
is this actual footage? I mean, I know they're doing some effects there, but none of this stuff, that's not actual footage.
We're not entirely sure yet. They say this is actual footage or really close to what it's going to be like.
I'm sorry. I have to leave. I've got to go. They found me.
My people need me.
or I'm a hero. Okay.
You're the hero or the villain or the victim, the culprit.
Anyhow, this looks like completely insane.
Yes.
Technology.
So yeah, our good friend Andy Wilson, who was on The Verge, did a lot of crazy projector stuff. Clearly, he's still doing it.
Last time we saw Andy Wilson, he was projecting onto my back.
And now he's projecting onto your living room.
Into my world.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense.
Anyway, we don't know how accurate this video is just yet.
Yeah.
They're not showing it off here. They just wanted to announce it here.
Do you think this could be new Xbox stuff? Like this is like a new, you saw Kinect, and now we've got this next thing that is part of the next Xbox experience?
It is and it isn't. What I'm interested in, if it's actually sitting to the screen, the Kinect sensor is going to have to be behind you, looking at the TV.
Is that where it is? It's behind you?
I don't know. They have a Kinect in the living room.
I thought it's a Kinect facing forward, and then you've got the projector behind you.
Right, but how is the Kinect mapping the room that it can't see?
It's just really good.
It's just that clever.
It finally got a Google Maps app.
Right. Anyway, we won't know for sure. We will find out in April. They're doing a conference in Paris.
One person laughed at that. Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
Actually, no. What else? This is entirely not related to CES, but I had to talk about it. Arrested Development is coming back. All 14 episodes.
But we knew it was coming back.
We knew it was coming back.
Now we know how many episodes and exactly when.
Yeah. And we know that just like they did with the other series, it's all coming back at one time.
Yeah.
So Mitchell Horowitz.
So wait, the entire thing.
All at once.
So I can literally just sit down on a Saturday and just jam through it.
Yeah, the day it comes out, you'll have everything.
So this is going to be, Netflix is going to go down again. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be like Christmas.
At the exact moment this happens.
Everybody's going to hit play. And then they'll realize that they've made a terrible mistake.
No, it's interesting because we've talked about how TV is very.
No credit for that, huh?
Nope. I'm just moving on. It's interesting because we've talked about how
Go ahead.
No, no.
That's fine. You can carry on.
Okay?
I don't know.
I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Make your point.
All right. 14 episodes. There's something of a chronology to it, but Mitchell Hurwitz said at a press tour, it doesn't have to be watched in order. There's not so much consistency. The only character that's in every episode is Jason Bateman's character. Otherwise, they're kind of self-contained with a little bit of order if you want to watch them that way.
Now, see, that makes me worried.
Really?
That makes me feel like they did something, I don't know, weird for budgetary reasons, or
I don't think budget was a concern. Netflix has been pouring a lot of money into making this. So are they not making?
They were going to make a movie. Are they not making the movie?
I don't think they're making the movie. At least they're not talking about it. I think they basically took the movie concept and put it into like a 14-part.
The thing about Arrested Development is that it was, it had a fairly good balance of serialized and episodic. Right. There was a story.
Right.
That evolved.
There was a story that evolved.
I'm worried that I would expect in the next season that you would get to see the evolution and maybe the conclusion of some of those storylines. Maybe I'm investing too much in the narrative.
I think you might be. I mean, this isn't Lost or anything.
I just want to know. I need to know what's in the hatch.
The smoke monster.
What's ultimately in the hatch?
It's.
I mean, I know there was stuff in there, but I think there was something else that we didn't see, and I need to know what it is.
It's an illusion. I am tired.
I'm
so sorry.
So obviously you're very excited about that. Why?
I'm enjoying that.
Extremely rude.
Give me one thing.
I'll give you that.
Anyway, the last story of the day is Hulu, and this comes from you, actually.
Yeah.
This comes your super session.
Just blazing through this.
Argue the Future 2, Return of the Future.
Yeah.
So you talked to.
Which, by the way, so we did a super session yesterday with Andy Forssell from Hulu, Eric Chang from Lytro, Walt Mossberg, and Nilay was on it, and me. So it's three angry journalists and two poor guys who had to talk to them. And it was actually really interesting. It was called Argue the Future 2, Return of the Future. But for some reason, right before we went on, I was convinced it was our subtitle was Revenge of the Future, which I think is actually a better name. And in fact, now that I think of it, I believe I pitched the name Revenge of the Future, and everybody shot me down.
So you had an actual George Lucas moment, because this is like the Revenge of the Jedi.
Exactly. I now know exactly how George Lucas feels in every conceivable way.
Except the part where he's filthy, stinking rich and can own
a
large chunk of San Francisco.
No, and I also have
I
also have a large ranch where I produce films and cool graphics.
That's nice. Anyway, let's get to the story. So you talked to Andy Forssell. He's the senior vice president of Hulu. Is he the possible future president of Hulu?
I mean, there's a rumor.
Right.
There's a going rumor on that. I mean, he's got a CEO swagger.
Certainly.
He's a really smart guy.
And he's making announcements that you would think a president would make. He was basically saying we as a company are reducing the number of ads.
So this was actually a surprise. We started talking about it, and I think I mentioned it. I made some joke about, well, I pay for your service and I also get ads. Right. And then Walt said, more ads lately, and I agreed 100%. In fact, I recently timed the ads, and it was almost the same amount of ads that you would get on a standard viewing of a show on television, right? Which would be, then it's like, well, why don't I just DVR, some of these things that I'm watching on Hulu?
But I mean, you don't think...
But of course, there's... But so he said, we added ads, and we've reduced them in January based on user feedback.
Right.
Which is, was news to me.
Yeah, and they also said later that they're going to gradually reduce them even more in the coming months.
Yeah, soon there's just going to be one ad. But it's going to be a 6-minute ad.
And it's going to be actually during the show. So next time you try to watch, I don't know, Project Runway. Well, no, that's actually a giant ad anyway.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What do people watch these days?
30 Rock?
30 Rock.
Yeah.
Before that goes off there, it's going to be one entire episode.
That was a bad choice.
The series finale is nothing but seven
Parks and Recreation? All right.
Parks and Rec.
Anyhow, but I thought that was interesting. Are you going to throw that at somebody?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting point. And we actually have...
We have a clip.
We have a clip, and when we're done, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we're done with the clip, Paul Pugh will be sitting here.
I will materialize.
You're going to dematerialize.
I'm going to dematerialize.
And he's going to materialize, and we'll be talking to him about where design is headed, which I'm excited about. But take a look at this, and we will be right back. The TV looks better than it has ever looked before. There are more channels than ever. Are consumers actually, I know we talk about cord cutters and that's a thing, and I think you talked to Ari Emanuel and he said there aren't cord cutters, and you said...
No, but here's the, if I could just anticipate what I think you're
sure, go for it.
I think there are cord cutters. Here's one. I think there are fewer of them than we might have expected 4 or 5 years ago.
Because the cable companies have been good at holding on to what they have.
Yeah, they've been good at holding on to it, and I think this whole rights world that Danny was talking about has hurt the efforts to do better, more integrated, over-the-top services that make the TV more attractive and easier to use and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's something that, this is what I was talking to Ari Emanuel about, or trying to talk to him about, which was, there's something called cable nevers.
Right.
And this is the most dangerous thing if I'm Brian Roberts. Brian Roberts, being the head of Comcast. I have 2 sons who are, one's married, one's not. They're both around 30. My youngest son would go without food before he wouldn't have internet, right? He has to have internet. But he would never go without anything to buy a cable subscription.
He doesn't have a cable subscription.
He doesn't have a cable subscription.
He never will.
And he never will.
And I think that cord never is combined with even the people who buy the cable thinking to themselves, this is secondary to what I see on the internet or what I get distributed online. That is the biggest danger for the cable industry. And I think that's why they're going to be pushed to make.
But luckily,
do you see that? Do you see more kind of like deal flow because they know? I mean, that would be my instinct.
I guess I'd say I think the cable, satellite, and telco are having to pay more close attention to consumers than ever before, and that's a good thing. I mean, their UIs are slowly getting better, too slow, but slowly they're better. If you look 3 or 4 years ago, they're wildly better. It's still not enough. I think they're worried about that, and I think they know they're going to have to do some repackaging. But they look at multi-channel subs, and they've hung in around 100 million homes, and it wavers a little bit, but it hasn't dropped. So they're all looking at the cord nevers, they're all doing a bunch of research, but so far it hasn't hit the bottom line, and I don't think they're going to anticipate that and start doing things differently. So I think it's going to be slow.
Our guest today is a guy that I've actually wanted to talk to for a while. We traded some emails. He works at Frog. He is the VP of Creative Software Innovation. Is that right?
Something around there.
Welcome, Paul Pugh. Thanks for coming to the show.
Super happy to be here.
Appreciate you being up this early.
Oh yeah.
Because
it got me to bed early.
Do you normally get up early? Are you an early guy?
Pretty early riser, yeah.
Yeah. So Frog, I mentioned this in the intro, but Frog has been a company that historically has just created some of the most innovative and interesting designs. I think Frog is really best known. I mean, you're a software guy, but when you think of Frog, you do think of the hardware stuff. Apple IIc, Mac II, Nextcube, the Snow White design language, which I think we have some images of. If you guys haven't seen these, you definitely should. Yeah, these are some prototypes.
Yeah, prototypes of a phone here, way before the iPhone, obviously.
And these are designed by Hartmut Essinger.
That's right.
Yeah. And this stuff, we actually just ran some of these photos. These are prototypes. These are obviously never came to the market, but just some really out there design. I mean, even now, I mean, these are from when? The 80s, right?
Exactly.
Even now you look at it and you think, this is just wildly inventive. But you also worked on the Nokia N9.
That's right.
Frog worked on the N9. And I think we got a few shots of that as well. And more recently, there it is. And more recently, the Sharp Feel UX.
That's right.
Now we actually did a big piece on this. Is only in Japan, but it's a fully skinned, full skin for Android.
That's
right. You guys pretty much touched everything here. So, you know, actually, let's talk about that for a second. What is your take on? I mean, obviously you're familiar with the stock Android interface, which I think has gotten pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good now. I mean, the question is always like, why go down this road?
Yeah.
Like, why would an OEM decide to customize it? I think that it's very difficult to distinguish a handset in this market now. If you go to the floor at the show, it's just overwhelming. How many handsets there are, how little differentiation there is between them.
They're all slabs, essentially. I mean, do you think that consumers, and maybe it's different in Japan. You know, I certainly can't speak for the Japanese market, but do you feel consumers go into a store and they look at the 5 Android phones and they are looking for a software difference between them?
No. Well, a couple things. It's not 5. It's like 15 phones.
Right. Okay.
Even like you go to the AT&T store, or Verizon store, there's a lot of handsets, and they're all kind of like shiny black hardware. And like when you touch them, you're like this experiences are pretty similar.
Right.
So like what's like you either can compete on price, or you can present up something that's a unique experience to them. And so like I think Android, it meets most of those needs, but there are still needs that users have. We did research that found like that there was opportunity to really do more with the lock screen, for example,
right.
and that users would like respond to that. They'd connect to those features, and then hopefully they decide to buy that phone based
right.
on that.
Right.
And it's not so much about like what Android wasn't doing from a platform strategy or Google strategy, just really trying to find those things that users are going to see to say, like I want that.
Right.
I'd be really enthused around having that on my device.
No, Android is still not nearly as approachable as something like iOS.
Right.
I think there is that, for a consumer, there is that barrier
right.
where you just don't know everything that it does, or you don't know how to get it to do everything you want it to do.
Right.
And so that makes sense to me. I just think it's a balance. But sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say there's kind of an interesting intersection, I think, with that moment where with Android, it's still like it's still difficult to distinguish the handsets, and I think also both the operators and the device manufacturers are really looking for opportunities to be able to shape that and own more of that customer experience. So you see these new platforms emerging, like Tizen and Ubuntu and Mozilla OS and some, Firefox OS by Mozilla, that look to actually be more catered towards that direction in the future.
Do you think, and I know that you're focused on software, but is there a lack? Does it seem like maybe some of this software differentiation is coming because there is no real hardware differentiation? I mean, it feels like everybody's kind of pulling the same parts off of a line somewhere, and with their slight tweaks.
Right. Like I think the cycle. I mean, it's sort of like you can look at the Android system versus the iOS system. The iOS system kind of is normalized in their innovation cycle. It's got a cadence that you can almost predict. The way it's going to work out, the way they name the devices and whatnot. On Android, it's the cycle is so much shorter, and that differentiation is so much more difficult because of that. It's a very more reactionary, and so I think that on the software side, it's always going to be a balance. Probably some handsets will get further ahead with customization, and they may pay for that to some degree because they're now to some degree committed to that model, and like going back and forth is the challenge. I think.
Right. So hang on. So I hate to cut you off.
Yeah, no.
I think we could talk about this stuff forever, but we're we only have a few moments, but we're at CES, and we are surrounded by these people making attempts at new user experiences. We just saw this new Microsoft thing, which is obviously this very immersive experience for a user. You've got all these new UI, UX ideas, voice control and motion sensing. We saw a bunch of that stuff last year on TVs. Where is this headed? I mean, obviously we're now starting to get into the era of touch as a real part of our computing lives, and in fact, probably almost all of the future of our, at least the main focal point for computing and interaction. So what else is there? What's coming up next? I mean, what is, you're obviously here looking at what all these people are doing. Does anybody getting it right? Can we expect that anything's going to actually?
I think like I was looking at the Samsung voice-controlled TVs, and like I think we're making progress. It's still really hard. Like I think that these technologies they're very nascent and they're very immature, but they're rapidly evolving. But I think it's when we bring them together, then I think they're going to be a lot stronger. Voice on its own solves some types of interaction issues, but when you add in gestures with it, it is actually much more powerful. So like this sort of a layered interaction model is what we call it, for the the right voice control or the right natural interface at the right moment is where I think it's going to be successful. Also, just that the devices are working together in a much more holistic way, and so you're not just dependent on a single device to make all those things work, but that the devices are much more aware and able to respond to each other. So I'm looking at how the environments around a mobile device are actually going to start to respond to that device. And
how much of that is the ideas happening, and how much of it is our sensors and our software, the actual hardware, what it can actually do, getting better? I mean, is it just a perfect storm right now, or is it that we simply couldn't do this stuff?
I think we simply couldn't do a lot of this stuff until just recently. And I mean, I still think that a lot of the things that we are imagining that we want to do are still a few generations of both processor, battery life, and things like that still affect what we imagine that we'll want to be able to do with it. So,
right.
But like the ideas here, like you start to see them, and you start to imagine how they can be sort of brought together. And I mean, that's sort of like the CESs of 2 to 3 years out. Hopefully, that we're starting to see the roots of. Like the big. Like the big story here is like definitely the 4K TVs and the gigantic TVs. I think I even saw something like an 8K TV.
Yeah.
Well,
of course they have to have an 8K.
Yeah, it'll be the 16K. But like that stuff will start to normalize, and like we'll be able to sort of bend those big displays to do new things when the price comes down, and that's to me that's really exciting.
So we really only have time for one more question. Yeah. This one is kind of. I don't know. It's a sort of put you on the spot. No, it's not arrested. But is there something you think out of all the stuff that we're seeing, out of just the stuff that that you're working on or thinking about, is there one trend or type of interaction or type of interface that we're going to see that you think will rise above the rest?
No, because I don't think there's one. I mean, because it's all about context. So like what interface is working at that moment may not work at the next time with your driving versus walking. It's a completely different experience. But there's all those things like there's eye tracking. That's like really interesting to me as a way to get to be able to serve the right type of information. There's some interesting things happening in the automotive space around eye tracking, that help with safety. But like I said, when the environments become more aware of what they're expecting us to do, I think the interactions are going to be pretty amazing. So.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime.
Really appreciate it. And we've got, you'll want to check this out. I think you'll enjoy it. We've got some video. David and Ross went to the show floor to kind of give you guys a look at what happens when you start getting really, really tired at CES and worn down and delusional. So check it out.
How many CESs have you done at this point?
This is only 3, actually.
That's my 3rd or 4th, too. I think we should just make a loop around Central Hall. Every 15 feet is a trash can.
Oh my God, there's so many people. I don't like it. What? I've never heard of Hisense.
What does Hisense do?
I don't know.
You're lost.
I have literally never been more lost in my entire life. Whoa, holy shit. Look at that TV with the glasses on. That's bananas.
When's the last time you remember the outside world?
Weeks ago, like July, I think. I legitimately thought yesterday was Sunday, all day, and then looked at my calendar and was like, wait, it's Tuesday? Oh shit.
Easel.
This is crazy town. I want this so bad.
Dead
I'm
now,
literally
actually.
wearing through the bottom of my shoes. God, this booth is enormous. Washing machine or bust. No, for real though, this is our best chance to see like a washing machine.
What? This is not okay. What is going on?
This is hurting my brain.
I'm so confused.
Which one do you watch? Just people know what we look like. We look like 2 men who are deeply in love with each other.
I'm actually happy here. This is like my happy space.
I mean, you can really tell it starts to wear you down emotionally. That's
I'm not proud.
shocking look into the mind of a CES journalist.
Yeah, I'm not proud, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot, and I'm glad that you guys finally got to really express yourselves out on the show floor.
We definitely fell asleep a few times filming that.
Really?
Just like we would sit down and just stare at something, like because we're just filming shots like just stare.
Yeah.
Stare at this guy playing guitar.
Yeah.
Stare at this couch. Stare at this fake dog.
Yeah.
And they're doing these back shots, and I'm just like.
You're already tired.
I literally.
You're already exhausted.
I fell asleep standing up at least 3 times yesterday.
Yeah, it's insane. So this is our. I just want to say, we got to wrap up here, but this is our and this is our final first of CES.
Yes.
But what an incredible what incredible 4 days it's been.
It's
Feels like we've been, I have to say, the show's really matured. I remember when we first sat down here, it seems like only yesterday. And in fact, it was only 4 days ago.
And technically, if you think of all the
3
sleep
days
we've had,
ago.
it has just been one day.
It's been one
sleep
long.
cycle.
It's been one long sleepless day.
Yes.
But really pretty crazy. And we've done. Do you know how many videos we've done at CES? Since
Hundreds at this point.
Yeah.
It's been hundreds.
All right. I mean, that's the sheer volume.
insane.
I just have to say, everybody who's working on the video team and putting this stuff together is insane. Because I don't know. I mean, we left last night late, and the video guys were sitting there just heads down editing.
Right.
We did have this great argument about how a long video, it takes so long to do anything in video because you've got to process and edit, and there's so many pieces. So I think it's been incredible, and I really, and I'm glad that we've had a ton of people watching.
Absolutely.
And I've really enjoyed it. And I want to say I've enjoyed my time with you as the co-host. Well, our co-hosting has been really special.
I'm really going to miss you, Josh.
I'm going to miss you.
Yeah. Because
It's been a good run. No,
care.
that was a bad shake. Can we get? It's been a good run.
Is that better?
That's more like
Okay.
it. Is that? We'll just edit that in post.
Do you what? Should we
We'll just make that seem like we had a smooth.
Let's just keep this
You
going.
want to keep going?
Top shelf later.
Top shelf later today, 90 on 90.
Vergecast after hours.
Of course, a Vergecast after hours, and that's it.
Yeah.
You've been firsted.
We still are.